Former Pittsburgh Steelers executive and NFL general manager Doug Whaley revealed the team nearly landed Aaron Rodgers 20 years ago when he was coming out of California in the 2005 NFL Draft. Whaley, who worked under general manager Kevin Colbert at the time, details how Rodgers' legendary 2005 fall from a top-5 pick to the mid-20s made the Steelers potentially consider taking him, even with Ben Roethlisberger around. "We wouldn't have had to trade up," Whaley said on 93.7 The Fan. "We would have just sat there. We had him higher than that. We were surprised he was slipping." Rodgers went 24th to the Packers, and the Steelers stood pat to take Heath Miller at number 30. Whaley says the entire war room was stunned Rodgers was falling as far as he did, and if he had made it that far, the Steelers could have decided to take him. For Whaley, Rodgers' fall was not that dissimilar from when Roethlisberger fell to number 11, where the Steelers picked in 2004. They were stunned he fell that far, too. Then when the Browns took Kellen Winslow, we all were like, "Wait a minute," Whaley said. "Seriously, I remember looking around the room saying, 'Where are the cameras? Is this one of those jokes?' We couldn't believe Ben fell to us." Rodgers is now 41 years old and will turn 42 during the season. The four-time MVP has stated this is likely his last season in the NFL. As for Rodgers' fit with the Steelers and his personality, he seems to be enjoying that and cited head coach Mike Tomlin as a critical reason he wanted to play for the Steelers. "I think there were conversations with other organizations for sure, but again, the rapport that fell in between me and Mike made it to where, as I was going through my personal stuff, there wasn't any other option for me. It was here, or not play," Rodgers said. Rodgers had 28 touchdowns to 11 interceptions in 2024. He went just 5-12 in his starts with the Jets, and even after they acquired Davante Adams, they went just 3-8. It was a tough season for Rodgers, who also had multiple leg injuries. It's been an eventful offseason for the Pittsburgh Steelers, to say the least. One could make the argument that the most crucial decision, which involves superstar pass rusher TJ Watt, has yet to be resolved. Watt currently has 1 year left remaining on his contract and is hoping to strike a potentially massive deal to make him the NFL's highest-paid defensive player. He held out from the Steelers' mandatory minicamp last month amid contract negotiations. Watt also skipped voluntary OTAs earlier this offseason. In 2021, he reported a training camp but refused to practice, a strategy known as a hold-in, until a deal was reached just days before the season started. According to Steelers insider Ray Fittipaldo, he's expecting another similar situation as Watt aims to secure a long-term contract. "I wouldn't be surprised if he's a no-show," Fittipaldo said. "We haven't heard yet from TJ's camp what the plans are, but all the big stars who had contract issues sat out of minicamp. I think we might see the same thing again in training camp," Fittipaldo added. "This year has different circumstances, with Myles Garrett and Max Crosby eclipsing Watt's contract from a financial standpoint after signing earlier in the offseason. If the stalemate continues, negotiations could get even more difficult if the Steelers wait too long and allow Micah Parsons or Trey Hendrickson to hit on a huge deal. As more pass rushers land large contracts, Watt's leverage likely increases given his caliber. He knows he's worth a similar price to the NFL's best, even at age 30. I don't think that panic button. You might want to get it close if it's a week before the season and TJ is still holding out and there's no communication," Fittipaldo said. "But as long as the lines of communication are open and they're still negotiating and things aren't very bitter between the two parties, I think we'll be fine." The Pittsburgh Steelers traded Minkah Fitzpatrick in the Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith deal, leaving a void on the team at free safety. Juan Thornhill is on the roster as the team's internal option, but there are enough external free agents who could make sense, too. The top option might be four-time All-Pro Justin Simmons, who is still a free agent after a year with the Atlanta Falcons. Simmons, 31, had 2 interceptions and 62 tackles in 16 games. He will turn 32 during the season. In an interview with Sean Keeler of the Denver Post, Simmons talked about what he hopes to find in his next team. "I think Atlanta I would still pick 10 times out of 10 if I was in the same spot I was last year," Simmons said. "But in terms of where I am now, I'm being a little bit more picky about where I go and where I want to call home the next 2 years, a year, whatever. A contender is number 1 on the list right now." The Steelers would satisfy that requirement, as the team has demonstrated an urgency to win with the moves they have made this offseason. Even if it is for one last hurrah, Simmons would make sense to play alongside Deshaun Elliott, who just received a new extension at strong safety. Simmons is coming off his worst year, statistically, since 2017. The cost to sign him would likely be cheaper than it was a year ago, as a result, when he signed for $7.5 million with the Falcons. Pittsburgh Steelers edge rusher TJ Watt might not be the best edge rusher in football, but his consistent presence among the top defensive players in football earns him a spot in that conversation. He may not finish his career with the most sacks or Defensive Player of the Year awards. He might not remain in the pantheon of the elite as long as some others. But until somebody earns 23 sacks in a season, Watt will have an accomplishment separating him from the pack. Watt is tied with New York Giants legend Michael Strahan for the most sacks in a single season, posting 22.5 in 2021. Now another New York edge rusher is gunning for his title. Kayvon Thibodeau, the Giants' 2022 first-round pick, is chasing down the Steelers star, setting the bar extraordinarily high for his 2025 performance. "More sacks than I ever had," Thibodeau told reporters on Tuesday. "Every time I come out on the field, I want to have more sacks than I ever had, more tackles than I ever had, and whatever I got to do to help the team. So yeah, I'm still going for the record. I'm going to go for the record every year." Granted, Thibodeau's career-best sack total is 11.5, set in 2023. That was largely the result of exceeding his pass-rushing peripherals, although he improved upon those marks in 2024 while injuries limited him to 5.5 sacks. A jump could be in store for Thibodeau, and he's looking to prove himself after an underwhelming third season. Making good on his draft capital after his fifth-year option was accepted will certainly get him paid like a star, even if he hasn't ascended just yet. "I've always been hungry," he added. "I grew up poor, and this is an opportunity to make more money than you'll ever make in your life. So, there's no added pressure, there's no added motivation. I think the motivation is not only to get here, but to stay here, and then once you're here, you're in a land full of lions, you got to come out on top. So, for me, I just want to be the best now. That's kind of what my motivation is, and that's what I'm here to do." Thibodeau breaking Watt's record would be as unforeseen of a breakout as any in recent memory. Further, his job got harder in 2025, at least in terms of raw production. The Giants drafted edge rusher Abdul Carter with the number 3 pick. When on the field together, Carter stands to alleviate pressure from Thibodeau, much like edge rusher Brian Burns and defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence. With fewer playing time comes fewer opportunities to impact the box score, rendering Thibodeau with little chance at a sack title, much less the record. He isn't in line for hardware, but both Thibodeau and Watt have something to prove in 2025. The former has his eyes on being the best in the sport. The latter wants to hold on to that status for as long as possible.